Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dr. Deep State. The title of our show today is Neocons and the Perennial Mythos. And we have joining us Daniel Domenichetti from the Catholic Center in San Paulo. And this is going to be part one of our episode called, again, Neocons and the Perennial Mythos. And we were ready to go with Professor Bizarra. Fred, it turns out, is in Italy, and Professor Bizarra, emergency weather came up and he's in the jungle and he got disconnected. So this is going to be part one. We're going to go over some of the basics of this very mystical idea called perennialism, and we're going to hit some of the basic outlines today. Before we get going, I want to discuss how the locals videos this week are connecting to this story. So I'm going to, and again, the reason I'm doing this is I am inviting all of you to come and join up. It's $5 a month. We have 3 shows a week. This week on Metaverse Monday, we talked again about the most famous typology in human history, and that is the 2 cities, and how that works throughout redemption history, how it connects to secular history, and how it speaks to events on the ground today. So we went through that on Monday. We had an exciting show on Wednesday, and I ain't just saying that. It was really fun. We went in and connected a lot of the dots with the surveillance state, the beast system, and really great conversations with AI, talking about exactly from the mouth of AI how this is part of the beast system. And we connected that with the surveillance system. And I thought it was a fabulous show. Today on Memory Hold Friday, we used Dave McCowan's book as a stepping stone, his 1994 book. We're calling this episode The Synagogue and Culture Creation. And we used a weird science inside the Laurel Canyon. And it's how organized tyranny, back then, it was during the Vietnam War, created the hippie culture. And the same techniques are also used at Tavistock to create so much of our political culture, our movie culture. So we really looked at those connections between the military-industrial complex and the creation of the hippie culture and so much more of our popular culture, and why it matters. So we see when organized tyranny gets going, and it's hard for me not to connect this right now. Problem, reaction, solution, Minnesota coming on strong, the reaction that's hooking up with the militarism, martial law, the pre-crime now. There's a heavy push to implement that in response, very predictable, that if you're talking about things that we're talking about, challenging the narrative, talking about the synagogue, you could be considered mentally unstable. So part of what we do here is we get together 3 times a week. People post and share information all day long. They become familiar, even friends with other people from the community, but in sharing it, we share a faith, but we're really tuning in to this transition from the serpent to move us from the city of God into the city of man. Part of the great deception is we don't even know it's happening because we have a lot of hooks in us from the popular culture that we went into, and frankly, all of the psyops going on around us. So we want to be wise as serpents and gentle as doves. So what Daniel is going to kind of give us the outlines of today. Oh, by the way, next week, such an important show. Later on next Friday, we're going to go through the history of usury. Of course, the unholy trinity working throughout history is sodomy, idolatry, and usury behind all of these major revolutions. And you also see the predictable techniques that we read about in the protocols. And it really is at play today like never before. I say that all the time, but it's just blowing up like never before. So the subject we're talking about today is very deep and esoteric, but it's very interesting. We know how sort of Gnosticism and New Age has hit the left, or the New Age movement. And that's a lot about the hippie culture that was manufactured and gets you thinking that everything is, you're not focused on the Vietnam War, but feeling really groovy and detached from things that we should care about and should be engaged in. And I would argue today there are things we should be engaged in, especially at the local level in our world. And these forces that we sometimes are unaware of are trying to pull us from this. So we have the Gnosticism from the left, but perennialism was really, I believe, designed to hit conservatives and even trads. And it's very delicate and very tricky. So I would argue that this mythos, this perennial mythos, is really underneath. It's the underbelly sort of current that is, in a sense, American foreign policy, which is really an arm of the synagogue. And so it has a certain way that it speaks, but more importantly, it has a certain mystical way it thinks. And we're going to especially hit on it in the next part 2 and part 3 when we can get Professor Bizarra on here. But Daniel and I work a lot together, and Daniel is one smart cookie. I truly enjoy working with him. We are on fire and we go back and forth. We're talking about the egregor, the blockchain of being, the blockchain of becoming, putting all these ideas together. And I think you're a brilliant dude, Daniel. And I'm really looking forward just to having you just lay out some of the general outline here of, I guess, what we're calling the neocons and the perennial mythos. Where would you like to begin, Daniel?
Well, thank you for the presentation. Of course, you are overstating things about me, but it's a very. Firstly, it's a shame that Professor Bezerra couldn't make it because the energy where he lives is a problem. Especially this week. But he will join us on part 2. But the theme that you chose is a very important theme because it's happening all over and people don't grasp it uh, uh, objectively. The word tradition is the word that brings confusion to the table because perennialism is a synonym to everlasting truths, universals, things that are revealed, things that are revealed to all religions that share a common knowledge, a common good, a common truth. So this common truth that gives life to every major religion or form of cult since ancient times is the tradition with capital T.
Capital T.
So you have to attach yourself to this tradition. This
Attach
is
yourself.
this human tradition that is valid and works throughout all peoples and all religions. Of course, with cultural expressions, different cultural expressions, but it's like a second layer. The code, the culture is a particular expression with some kind of specific translation to some kind of people, some kind of region, some kind of era, but the tradition remains. It's a steady tradition translated by zeitgeist, adjusted to each zeitgeist.
Yes.
And the means that adjust this tradition with capital T, are the religions. Religions are forms of expressing the same tradition for different peoples with different cultures in different times. And it's absolutely opposite to what God revealed to what God revealed firstly through his covenant with Abraham and Moses, the Mosaic law, and then the fulfillment, the perfection with our Lord Jesus Christ. Of course, as Professor Bezerra used it to explaining, there are two traditions competing: the true and the false. The true tradition is the one revealed by God, revealed by God, sorry,
Yeah.
throughout the history in the Old Testament and then in the New Testament with Jesus Christ. So ancient Judaism, it's not even the best word Judaism, because the
Right.
Judah tribe was before, was after that. It's the best would be Hebrewism or something like that. The old Hebrewism and Catholicism are the same religion. One prefigures the other.
Yep.
The new Judaism has nothing to do with that.
Yes.
So this is the true revelation, which is comprised in the Bible. Okay? From Genesis to Apocalypse. The false tradition is Kabbalah.
Yes.
And Kabbalah gives all theological bits for those religions. All theological parts, all theological concepts, bit by bit, so that each religion forms its compendium, its theological compendium, rearranging these bits specifically for that people, for that region, for that era. So one tradition is steady,
Yep.
immutable,
Yep.
perfect,
Yep.
well ordered.
Yeah.
The other one is chaotic, cultural oriented. So perennialism is the intellectual, philosophical arrangement that intellectuals give to join all these universal truths in one sufficient tradition that inspires all religions. And this is exactly what ecumenism,
Yes.
the wrong one, uh, um, expresses. This is exactly what the lesser lights in the Vatican II Council concept.
Yeah.
Nostretate, all religions have lesser lights of the
You
truth.
mentioned that
This
too.
is
Yeah.
that. This is it.
Yeah.
And more than that, since its origin is Kabbalah, but this is a philosophical arrangement, the synthesis of it is both esoteric and exoteric.
Right. It's two-faced, right?
It's
Duality.
two-faced, yes. And of course it's esoteric. Madame Blavatsky is the symbol of the esoteric part of perennialism.
Mhm.
with her theosophical religion and philosophy and political view. UN is a product of Blavatsky's ecumenical worldly view. One religion, one world, whatever. New world order. But the pantheism and the neo-paganism are the exoteric part of that.
Right.
So all religions share a common tradition. This tradition is perennial, everlasting. So religions may change, can change, may die, may be created, doesn't matter, as long as this tradition. So you have no more the real religion, the one religion, the truth, which is Catholicism. But Catholicism is one of these expressions,
Yeah.
and therefore it can die, no problem, as long as this capital T tradition remains protected. Of course, René Guénon and Friedrich Schwann are Titus Burckhardt and people like that are their exponents in the 20th century, especially Guénon.
Right.
But one thing that people don't get, Doug, is that perennialism is exactly it's exactly what Noahide laws mean.
Let's stop
The
there and just
7
put that
Noahide laws
yeah. So let's go back. Let's do a
is
couple
this
basic
T,
things.
this tradition.
I want to make a couple comments because we're hitting the big picture and we're going to do a little penetration today. What I'd argue is, now this isn't any order, not in any particular order. Gnosticism is a word that can mean anything, but in a big way, Gnosticism as a force is a shape shifter. So what we're talking about can be the same underlying thing representing itself in different cultures in any way, but it has the same telos, the same direction.
Yes.
So now I'm
Yes.
going to hop over to, for example, Vatican II. So Vatican II is going to claim that there's truth in all religion, and there is some truth there. But when you say it, omitting that Christ alone is the way, the truth, and the life, and the author of all salvation of heaven and earth, minus that, it just becomes a Gnostic kind of throwaway tool. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You have to keep the two together. So there is some truth, that there's truth everywhere. I mean, so the Gnosticism is going to look for that 1% that's
Yeah.
not true as an entryway whenever it enters a new culture. So what I would say, and I like the way Professor Bizarre and you have framed that there's two traditions, because there was a legitimate Hebrew tradition, and then there was the way that was perverted by the Pharisees. It became Gnostic. Okay, so the tree of life and the tree of knowledge and good and evil are the source of these two traditions. One works from revelation from God, from above and from below. And the tree of knowledge of good and evil, as Professor Bizarra said, it's the snake seducing us through naturalism. But it has these components, the snake. It's parasitic, and it works from mimicking the original. So a fancy way of saying that's the apathetic negation of the original, of being. So it's creating its own world, but it has to parasite and copy and trick people that they're more interested in the copy than the original. I know there's a lot of terms going on here. So you can go any direction you want, Daniel, but you mentioned a couple of the kind of big names. And some of these people came out of Sufi, like an Eastern kind of phase. We have Wolfgang Smith. We have Valentin Tomberg that were more stringent traditionalists.
Islamism
a lot of variation.
Islamism is as an important source, and some say that Prince Charles himself was part of Schwann's Esoteric, and that's why he's trying to Islamize. I don't know if the word is Islamize the United Kingdom, but you said one thing that's very important, because the word truth means everything and means nothing in terms of this argument that, because there's one truth with capital T, and it's our Lord Jesus Christ. The truth is a person, it's not a concept.
Yes,
It's not
yes.
Christ is not Platonic. Perennialism is Platonic.
That you should just stop right there. That is so important, and we should just pause at that. Truth. That's why the Trinity is people. That's why we can have a personal relationship. Before Christ's incarnation, the Logos becoming flesh and blood, it was shattered our understanding of the cosmos. Before that, we had an impersonal relationship. And the Platonic idea is that our ideas could merge back to the original idea. With Christ and the introduction of a divine trinity and a bodily resurrection, it was a complete change shifter, not just of an idea, but of reality itself is a person. And so the mimic of that, the naturalized, it's going to be any type of heresy. It could be from the left, it could be from the right. The Gnostics from the beginning are going to problematize, could Christ be, he's either all divine or he's all man, but they couldn't get the balance right. And we're not going to have a bodily resurrection. So the same force that had to take that perfect balance is always going to try to shift it, shape shift it in one direction or another to put it off, like you said, I just emphasis the person of Jesus Christ.
And more than that, totally opposite to the Kabbalistic view, God is not a force that can be both good and evil at the same time. God is not an energy. God is a person. And he's not evil and bad, because the sovereignty of God is absolutely prostituted by Talmudic Jews and Protestants when they say that God can do whatever he wants. No, God can do evil. He can't do that.
Right.
He can't lie. He can betray himself. He can betray Christ. He can't do all these things that Jews, Muslims, and Protestants, evangelicals say that he can, because as they think that God is a superhero, a superpower, a force.
Right, exactly.
If he wakes up, anthropomorphically speaking, if he wakes up in a bad mood today, he can destroy a country. No, God doesn't work like that.
He's bound by his
work.
perfection. He's bound by his perfection. And that's the idea of the word being. He is all beauty, all truth. And this is the difference in the two, the apophatic tradition and the
this is order. Yes.
In our cataphatic tradition, we are not beautiful, we're not smart, we're not virtuous, only on our own, like this infinite dignity, only to the extent that we participate. And that's where you get the person. And this is what they want to attack, that personality. And that's what, like you're saying, that's what Noahide laws. It's the Trinity and the bodily resurrection are number one. For us to be kosher servants, they have to get rid of those two aspects. So yes, that is what holds that together in the being. And again, the counter tradition really fine-tuned the Kabbalistic tradition in the 13th century with the Zohar and the practical Kabbalah. And so God now is both good and evil. You have the dialectic that's with us today in all our
yin
events
and yang. Look to all the traditions, the yin and yang, all of that. So
gods of forces in every it's gods of forces, not personal.
Yes, and you can use the force to edificate or to destroy.
It's a God that serves you, not a God that you serve. Yep.
The apotheosis is the end game, is the apotheosis, not the beatific vision and participating in the beatific vision, but the apotheosis, the myth of Prometheus. No?
Yep.
Prometheus. But I was talking about the truth. People forget that Satan only spoke the truth to our Lord Jesus Christ
that's
on the desert. Speak the truth is different from being the truth.
That is so good. That is so true.
Evil can build a lie only speaking truth. Can sell a lie by citing only truth.
Cites scripture, but cites it selectively.
Yes, the power of narrative is build a lie using truth. This is the power of narrative. So once you become a Freemason-minded person that believes that there's an energy that makes use of all religions,
Yeah.
you became a perennialist and vice versa. And from this kind of heresy, that the concept fratelli tutti, everyone is, we are all brothers, comes to life. No, we're not all brothers. We are, me and the brothers, because we were baptized on the Catholic Church. And therefore we are brothers of Christ by adoption. And because of that, we entered in the one whole and Catholic Apostolic Church, and we become adoptive sons of God. It's by adoption. And the baptism is the only way to that. So I'm not a brother of to a Muslim or to a Shintoist or to a Buddhist. I love him. I'm a creature like him in the Adamic nature, the Adamic form, but I'm not his brother. Christ elevates the family by baptism. I'm accepted into his body, mystical body, the church, because I'm his brother. So perennialism is the idea that everyone shares the same tradition. We are all brothers that express different religions with the same origin, with the same common good, with the same cosmological destiny. And that's why the word destiny is so important for them. Because time, circumstance changes. Because religions are only expressions, cultural expressions. And for Catholics that are based on the true revelation, the only true revelation, inside the church, outside of which there's no salvation, the bark of Peter, we are not left to world's forces and moods, and because we are stuck on the rock. And that's the difference. We don't get along to go along and go along to get along with the aggiornamento, the zeitgeist. Yeah. This is, and that's the bridge to what to your call. Conservadorism is the mindset that wants to preserve this common tradition.
Yes.
As long and while advancing with the zeitgeist. And this is radically different from tradition.
Yes.
Because tradition does not change, it develops, it gets better, but it does not change. That's why the deposit of faith is immutable. That's why dogma does not evolve. It's not a Darwinistic matter.
It's one revelation.
Yes.
So now we can wait till part 2 and really, because I know Professor Bizzarra really wanted to get into Steve Bannon and Dugan, and we don't have to hit on all that today. So I don't want to set our thumbnail up too much.
He's the guy. He's the guy. I'm just.
But what I will say leading off from what Daniel just said, the big revelation that really, there's no other word that I can come up with that we've been hitting on, is the word Americanism. This is an egregor. It's
Yeah.
part of a false tradition. So the French and American Revolution, the synagogue basically laughs at us for, fraternité, liberté, and equality. Well, liberty and equality are not the same thing. They're a contradiction that creates this vacuum egregor where you're getting power from below. So it took these words that we know, and I dug through last week on locals, this Kabbalistic technique. Instead of natural law, our Declaration of Independence says laws of nature. It's Kabbalistic term. And that we're putting this God, it couldn't say the Bob from the, it's not the God from the Bible, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's this God of nature. And, DC Schindler really did a great job explaining this is essentially the unknown God that we said is going through history. It's Luciferianism. It's naturalizing the revelation of God, but it has to sound like the original. That's how the serpent moves us from, we still think we're in the city of God. We're good people. We're doing the right thing. We're patriotic. But these errors were condemned by the church for a reason. These are heretical ideas, this indifferentism that we're all, every religion's equally true and we all have a voice and power from below, power to the people. These are Luciferian ideas and they'll have Luciferian conclusions. And yes, we live in a fallen world. There's no perfect order. But what we argue here is Christendom in their subsidiary order, in their integral order, could have people of different tongues, different languages, different ethnicities, but all together having unity, the one that Christ demanded. We've been moving away from that in this modern age, and we have to get our minds, bodies, and souls back to this perfection, back to the concept of reality, even if we're living in a distorted reality right now. Even if there's a crisis in the church, we have to understand what base reality is. And that's where Daniel started out. Two traditions is a great way. Sometimes we say the blockchain of being, the blockchain of becoming, apophatic versus cataphatic, seed of the woman, seed of the serpent, city of God, city of man. There's these ideas, or we would call them sacred typology moving. And when we really start to get, this is why we talk about the protocols, you really got to get into the methods. And Christ wanted us to. That's why he told his apostles, do not take the leaven of the Pharisees. Understand. And they commanded, this is the deposit. Don't accept anything that's not handed down to you in this way. But many Catholics have forgotten, and they've fallen into this indifferentism and this idea of power from below. And look, we have to work with what we have. I say get local. If tyranny is moving in your world, obviously you have to prevent it. This is a tyranny that's working for the destruction of humanity, but specifically Christians. But the target of this is the Catholic Church. It's the Holy Eucharist, in addition to all of our sacraments. And when we start to make that, we can go back to what Daniel was saying, the subtle differences and what you were saying, truth is a person. And the other thing you said about truth was the devil. He's saying truth. He's going to use that technique to hook us. And, we go back to the Declaration of all, and so many people are trying to reclaim this original air. And it won't work. It's the Ouroboros. It'll come back in the same direction. It's the work of the serpent. And it's hard for us to understand. That doesn't mean everything about a democracy is terrible, or our modern republics, or our individual states. But I teach American, like this summer, all the things in America, loss of trust, it's almost at zero in your government. Do you believe the government could have any efficacy in solving problems? No, it's an all-time low. The unity that was hoped for in the project has dissipated. All we have is the synagogue weaponizing us, trying to make every division possible in our thoughts and our minds and all of our degrees. And it's not an American thing. It's the empire of spectacle. This energy has spread throughout the whole world. So we're all of one mind, but we're not of the mind of Christ, even though we can sometimes have a lot of truth in our churches and so, that's the question. What do you do? I believe we have to go back and identify base reality and work from there. But I didn't mean to talk over you so much, Daniel.
No. It's fantastic. And Doug, two things that come to my mind. First, the strategy is always offered the lesser of two evils. By choosing
Yes.
the lesser of two evils, each one you choose, you depart from truth a
And
little
when
bit,
you
a little
give your
bit, a little bit.
consent to the
Yeah.
Trumpster, you're not going to call out the military, the
Yes, the
martial
lesser
law.
of two
You're not going to
evils.
call out the
Because
cleaning
there's
people up
truth
in
on
the
that. You see, there's
street
truth on that.
crime is coming all
Yes.
over us. You attached yourself because you said lesser of two evils.
Because there are good things there.
Catholic.
And of course, he's going after
What business is
transgender.
truth
Oh,
with
that's
you?
very good. Yeah. And the second thing is the Trinity, another unholy Trinity, which is indifferentism that you cited already, relativism, and universalism. Universalism. Everyone gets saved in the end because God is good. God's blah, blah. And this is the unholy trinity that emerged from the Vatican II Council philosophy, the Jesuitic absurdity that dominated the
Yeah,
council.
it's the absurdity of
Jesuitical.
equality and liberty.
Yeah.
And Father Fahey, cites the beginning of this as Protestantism, and the error of Vatican II is that it's a Protestant error. And so you get the same results in subjectivism, relativism, universalism, and indifferentism. It's just an amplified error of it's amplified because it's coming from Mother Church, and it's a problem.
They are expressions based on this capital T tradition that perennialists defend. You see? The other thing is that something that, because neocons are exactly that.
Yeah.
Um,
It's Americanism
good
on steroids.
on steroids. Good people with good values
Yeah.
that defend good things, but not in the right manner and with the right theological approach.
Right. So it takes a good thing like patriotism and perverts it.
Yes, that's why it's very common to this Judeo-Christian.
Yeah, hogwash. Yeah.
Okay.
Oxymoron.
Yes, and it's an oxymoron, and it's Anthony Stein published this week a video, very, very interesting. So it kind of gives me that idea that 2025, Doug, is the externalization year, because he got the invite. He showed the invitation for a 3-day workshop or 4-day workshop with Peter Thiel. Peter
The
Thiel,
Antichrist.
the Palantir guy.
Yeah.
Who is now saying that he's a Christian, without any denomination, but a Christian, an average Christian, and he's the one that is going to explain us using different sources, not Catholic, only Cardinal Newman, but Jonathan Swift, a lot of, and he's going to explain us who is the Antichrist and how he's going to come. Well, he is the AI guy. Of course, there's a correlation with the Antichrist, the AI theme. But what took me a lot of thinking is his thesis. Doug, it's brilliant because it's pure Satanism, and Satan is very intelligent. Think of that. This guy is saying his theory is that the mood, the ecosystem that will make the Antichrist come, that will provide means for the coming of the Antichrist, is a word that I never thought about. It's stagnation. Think of that, Doug. Look how brilliant it is. It's total inversion. He says that once humanity keeps evolving, Darwinistic, transhumanistic, blah, 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 there's no Antichrist. But once humanity goes to this stage of stagnation, then the Antichrist will come. Well, what is stagnation? It's Christendom.
Yes, it's because
It's
just lives
tradition.
in one truth. It lives in one revelation.
Yes.
And it's very catchy. It's like the bicycle. If you stop pedaling, it's going to fall over.
Yes. So if you adhere to Christ and his order, then you are in stagnation. And this world will make the Antichrist come. On the other hand, if you adhere to eternal Darwinism, changing your human nature and implementing AI all over yourself, all over your cells, all over your brain, then humanity is free from Antichrist. It's a total inversion. It's exactly what Sister Lucy called the diabolical inversion.
Yeah. You know, we've been saying this all year. Annie Besant wrote a book in 1957 called the Externalization of the Hierarchy. And this is the year that's been clocked in, whether it's designed by Christ or the Antichrist. So it's the forces of evil, like the face of evil himself telling. So like that was part of one of the themes this week when we were talking about connecting the AI and the beast system. You know, Yuval Harari, everybody knew this was evil when it was over in the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and the whole gang. But then when Trump did the exact same program, people lost it. They couldn't see it.
Yeah.
But Yuval Harari, his supposed religion that we talk about in here, both the books, the links are in the description, but it's Dataism. And that's what they're putting up, these energy farms in Texas. They want our data, literally all our physical traffic that we thought about and done in our life, but they want to pull the essence of our being out of us. And this sounds like, 5 years ago, this would sound crazy, but when you see it up and running, people are going like,
Yeah.
So the proposition, whether it's Carr, Thiel, the PayPal Mafia, Palantir, or Yuval Harari, the proposition is this, and this is the core of the seeing through the delusion that is technological singularity. They're saying this more and more every week. We want you all to merge, and so the merger it's this narrative that they're telling. Again, the serpent, the synagogue works through infiltration, deception, and controlling the narrative. It's this.
The serpent does not want.
Yeah, artificial general intelligence. They're going to overtake us. The supposed developer of this is putting it out this week. We have to give it a maternal instinct to make it like our mothers, because it's going to come. It's going to get it. So you would think we'd be so scared of it. And they're using, like you said, a diabolical inversion that you're scared of it. And the only solution is to merge with it. And it's like trying to take equality and liberty and in your mind saying, they're both good things, so they must be this. They're not. They create a vacuum in your mind. It's chaos magic. You can't think straight. It doesn't make any sense. So how to deal with AI? I would just say it is part of the beast system, very, very, very aware. But anything these guys are selling, it's probably do the opposite for the most part.
Yeah. And now the serpent does not only want us to eat the apple.
Bugs.
He wants us, the serpent, it wants us to make part of the tree. And that's the system of the beast. We are active parts of that. We are information nuts. We are all connected in an overflowing data flow. Exactly.
One battery. They want to use our essence as a battery to bring on the next age. That's why that major depopulation. They want to accumulate a lot of essence and pull it in. And again, that's worked throughout human history. And I know the word sounds funny, the apophatic negation of being. So it takes the revelation that's real and it makes counter narratives, counter churches, philosophy. It's the serpent working through naturalization. And it's the ultimate trick is that you don't know that you're no longer incorporated into the true mystical body. And so we got to get back to base reality by seeing the techniques. It's helpful, seeing the psyops, seeing how it operates. Yes. And if you kind of see it, sometimes people will get tricked back into it. They'll kind of wake up and then it's like, oh, they were Catholics that were attacked. I feel like a victim. Or, oh, it's a trans. Well, oh, of course. Well, they're evil. Oh, he wrote a note that he loves the devil. Well, there you go. So I'm not even saying what that is. I don't need to go into it. I just see the typical problem, reaction, solution. We have to have pre-crime. Yeah. If you guys have a problem with the narrative, if you guys are talking about the synagogue, you're obviously mentally ill. Oh, we just have an executive order now for that. How convenient.
And this is not going to stop. This is only advance. It's going to advance. And if you think of Francis, this Abrahamic religion that he invented, that has on that religion mall in Abu Dhabi,
yeah,
where you can go to a synagogue or a
that's charged by perennialism. That is perennialism.
That is perennialism.
That
is Catholic perennialism. Yes. And then he goes to Singapore. He goes to Singapore months before he died. Before he dies, and he says that all religions lead to God. So the hierarchy in the Catholic Church is already operating in that mindset, through that mindset, in that operating system.
Yeah.
We are all brothers, fratelli tutti. We have this common home, and let's fight for peace. And that's it. So the Catholic Church is just an instrument, a natural instrument to bring peace to the humankind and preserve the common home. Just that.
Yeah, it sounds like the anti-church.
Yeah, Fulton Sheen would call it the ape of the church.
Yep.
That's it. But you see, Peter Thiel,
like the church emptied of its essence.
Of its essence. Peter Thiel is behind all this neocon movement, but he's associated with Curtis Yarvin, who defines himself as a witch, a wizard. I don't know. And of course, Elon Musk. So they are building the new Senate, the new Roman Senate. That's their project.
Yeah.
The three of them. This new world rearranged in order to be ruled by an elite, a new Senate that own technology, own data, and own people. When you see it through the lens of religion, you will understand that the goyins are going to fulfill energy should the Senate evolve. And this is Noahide law.
Yep. Oh, we should finish today on Noahide. So just remind me of that. But yeah, when we think about the foreign policy, what everybody bought into this, we had World War II, we kicked butt as America. So there's this, euphoria, and the Korean War. And then, the Vietnamese kind of situation took it away and we were kind of questioning and got Vietnam syndrome. But the idea that this would be the big century. So what is the unfolding of this manifest destiny? Like this is the force that America is, this force for good. And what is
The
underneath
new
it?
golden dawn. The
It's
new
an
golden dawn.
egregor, because it's the city of man that's expanding throughout the world. When I say egregor, it's when you consent to it. Oh yeah, those guys are barbarians. We need to go and pound them and put Halliburton and Dick Cheney's oil companies over there, and I'm going to look the other way. I'm going to vote for that. You have consent. That's how the egregor works. These mind demons from below start putting hooks in you, and it gets very hard to detach, and people will defend it to the hilt. And I think when a day comes when Christians are persecuted, what people are going to be, and I'll leave it over to you to, let's talk about Noahide to close this out. What people are going to be surprised about, that you're going to be persecuted by people that call themselves Christian. And that's why I think a lot of people aren't ready. Now we know, in the Masonic order, the 21st degrees Noachide, and Islam is the broom, and they're going to be at work, and other people, agents in place are going to be at work. But regular people, they're going to kill you thinking they're doing the will of God.
Yeah.
And, that's what we're up against in this air. And so they want to purify you and make you kosher for that order. In order to avoid that, the mark of the beast, we need to purify ourselves from all of these errors that we grew up in, that we were surrounded about, including this. I'll just put it up here again, including, and I hate to say this because it sounds like, including this popular music that we grew up around. It has a place, it has a time, but this idea that we can be a good person and kind of have a foot in the world, it's really time to understand that we are living in a great delusion, and most people will be deluded. Most people are going to take the mark of the beast. And if you want to be comfortable in saying, oh no, that's like 200 years away, you have to understand this infrastructure in the system. The technology's here, they're putting it in, people are allowing it to happen. We need to be the church militant, and we need to be wise as serpents. We need to push back. We need to stand for truth. But we also need to understand base reality, which is the kingship of Christ, not just a term. That's when all of the world is committed. So we will pass that information along to further generations, that all of our economy, our culture, our language are all turned to our Lord Jesus Christ. All authority comes from above to us and not from below. And so the sooner we start seeing the fundamental lies of people putting their fist in the air, their commie fists in the air, and calling it fight, fight, fight against the Democrats or the deep state or whatever, you got to recognize, I'm not listening to your commie fist in the air. Anyway, and I'll let you finish, Daniel.
No, I just would add that actually that's nothing new.
Nope.
Because the ones who killed Saint Stephen, the ones who crucified Christ, were the Christians of the time, meaning the Jews. And they were, at that moment, the people of God. Until Christ resurrected, effectively, they were the people of God.
Yep.
So once they killed the Messiah, then things changed. But until that, they were the fruit of the promise.
Interesting.
And they killed Saint Stephen, 11 apostles, and all the martyrs. That's exactly what's going to happen. And they did that
Comes around.
thinking
Yep.
they were fulfilling the law.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what's going to happen to us.
And
Catholics, faithful Catholics, to the true tradition, will be denounced, killed, imprisoned, whatever, prosecuted, whatever, by Christians that will be thinking that they were, that they will be living the true religion. They think they are making the will of God. Exactly what happened.
Absolutely. And again, I redid my chapter. Again, I'm trying to get the book out before the end of the year. I don't want to be in a crazy rush, but I'm doing all 10 chapters. This chapter on Saint Stephen, the first martyr of the church. What did he say? He identified the enmity. He identified the collective guilt. He identified the deicide. That is the nut that opened up the beatific vision that the Christian faith would go through, and as it would be further expanded by Saint Augustine, who would use exactly that identification to use it would become the architecture of Christian civilization. So when we think that we can just do Nostra Aetate, and that the church evolves kind of like Teilhard de Chardin would say, and we don't feel that way anymore because that's kind of mean, you're a modernist. You've lost the spirit of the church militant and the church martyr. And it's not just even to do this to be a church militant, which we're called to do, but you're called to obey God. You're called to pick up your cross and follow in the fashion of Jesus Christ, Saint Stephen, and all the great martyrs. And so it is precisely that spirit of militantism and martyrdom together, identifying but you're empowered. The modernity, the new age feel good, they want to see you're a bad person. Everything's upside down. You are called to call out the enmity, call out the deicide. That's what's empowering the serpent, is that they own it. They want to make it illegal for you to say it, but they own the deicide. They are empowered by it. But we will be empowered. So we need to do it as communities together, get our mindset that is the centerpiece, the metaphysical nut that built this thing and will preserve this thing. So if you want to fight this power, anything beyond your rosary, be aware that that's what built it. And the blurring of it by Vatican II is what diluted and is now destroying it.
Yeah.
I sound like I got on a soapbox. Okay.
No, but it's perfect. It's perfect. and the recipe to achieving that is self-kenosis.
Yes.
Because you kill your own self, your own ego, your own ideas, the old man, and then Jesus Christ, as St. Paul explained,
and the killing of us is the building of the church.
Yes, that's it. And you become a soldier of Christ, because it's now Christ operating in you and through you. And that's why the Magnificat that Our Lady sings to Saint Elizabeth it's our way of living, because humbleness is the only way to achieve that. God will work through the humble ones, because the humble one is the one that makes himself an instrument to the will of God. And it's only that. And if it means martyrdom, so be it. So be it.
And I can just tell people, just meditate on those parables. And I can just tell people, when you take in that spirit of martyrdom, it's true freedom that you start to experience.
Yeah.
So that when these things come upon you, you can obey our Lord Jesus Christ and not live in fear, because you've already went through it. You've already decided what's going to happen. And it's the most freeing thing in the world.
And they don't own you anymore. They don't own you anymore.
Bring it on. Daniel,
I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I pray every day. It's a journey. But I think every Catholic should assume the true, the firm decision to get there.
Yeah. Well, I can certainly say that about my holiness. It's still a work. We're all, that's the great thing about being Catholics, is it's goal directed, and our goal is to
sanctity is a process.
Glory. But so we're right at an hour, Daniel, and I'm so glad.
Okay.
I mean, we always feed off each other. I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm looking forward to for Professor Bazzara coming in and filling in some essential blanks that we have here. And I'd like to get Fred hopefully back so we can really
Yes.
work with some of these ideas in the very new future. So we're going to be seeing everybody. Thank you for joining Dr. Deep State. I pray you all are doing well, and we'll be back with you next week.